Well, welcome to Podcast Tips. This is Rob Greenlee. Thank you so much for joining me again tonight. This show is going to be another show about the focus on shorts and long form content. So I hope we can have this in-depth conversation about this. I do have a guest, but this program is going to be an open Q&A show. So please jump in here and give me your comments and your thoughts about this topic, which I think is on everybody's mind right now, is around what do I do? Do I create shorts or do I create long form content? And it's this tug of war in the video side as well as on the podcasting side as well. There's a lot of content creators that would that struggle with this choice of how long should my content be, and is there a difference in audience growth when it comes to duration? And my comment on the podcasting side is always, well, it needs to be as long as it needs to be, but that's not always the answer for everyone. I think some people like to be disciplined about their duration, and I think it's even more complicated when we move into the video side, and there's a lot of elements there. But I have a terrific guest with me that I brought in, who is actually originated as a member of this show's audience, and his name, he's also a live streamer, audio podcaster. He's doing all this stuff too. So I wanted to engage with people from the community of this program and bring them on board, share their experiences, and also take questions from you, create like a conversation here about what's going on in the medium and how all these are converging together. So I have Sam Proof with me of samproof.tv, and he's here with me, and we pull him up on the stage here, and if everybody can meet him. Hey, Sam.
Al. Hey, how's it going?
Doing terrific. Thank you for jumping on here and talking about this very interesting topic. I'm sure you've had a lot to think about over the years on this topic, and as you've created content and done things as well, and we're both kind of doing audio podcasting, video podcasting like this program. But let me pull up your website, and so people can see a little bit more about who you are. And you're a YouTuber, you're a live streamer, strategist, you're helping other people as well, plus you're doing your own shows.
Yes.
And I think that's what really intrigued me about pulling you on the program is that you're out there in the trenches trying to do this, do all this stuff. And I am as well. I mean, I've been doing podcasting since 2004, but when you start combining video with this, it kind of changes the dynamic of what you do, and then you layer in on top of it the whole live part, and things get pretty complicated, don't they?
Yeah. So I think I'm from the other side of it, where I started with live, and then I was like, well, I can just turn these into podcasts. So I think between the two of us, we have both sides of it covered. But yeah, I started doing live streaming in 2005, and I've probably done 36 podcasts, and produced other people's shows and stuff since that beginning. But I've always been just enamored with this experience of like immediately being able to interact and react to a live community. I think it is something that is truly unique in all of the web media that's out there. It's like this amazing just access to everyone that's listening, right?
Right. Yeah. I totally agree, and I love the interactive aspects of it.
Yeah,
it can be a lot to juggle, right?
Yes.
You're a StreamYard user, from I understand.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it can be a lot to juggle to try and produce the smoothest operating show that you can, right? It's not always easy to do, and there's comments coming in, and you want to make sure everybody has a voice and a say, but yet being able to share valuable information too. And it's always trying to walk this fine line. So what's your kind of attitude about that? I mean, is it something that took time for you to develop, is the skill to be able to to think in like 3 different directions at the same time?
Yeah. And I think it's ever evolving, and it's different for every show that I do. But I think when I approach a show, I really have to like analyze what is the product of the show. Is it the live stream or is it the podcast that comes after the fact? Because I think,
Right.
those are very different things. Even though it's all here, it's all happening at the same time, you're utilizing these tools differently. If the live stream is the product, then what happens after the fact, the podcast is really just a sort of look at what you missed kind of experience. It's just the social, promotion of it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to put more effort on how fast can I react to all of the comments that are coming in, and how can I, accurately answer all of these comments and make sure that everyone who's here that shows up live feels like, it was worth it for them, right? Whereas if it is the podcast that is the product, then you might, put that interactive experience, downplay it a bit. I wouldn't say don't do it. I would always say if you're going to do a live stream, it's because you are expecting interaction. Like if you're not expecting people to leave comments and answer those comments, don't do live, do a VOD, right? Just do the podcast. Right. But the beauty of it is doing this, for the sake of making a podcast later, you just have this amazing production tool where you can create a video podcast on the fly, like live editing by switching like you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can then take that after the fact and polish it up. So right. I think that's really the big difference.
Yeah, I agree. And the comment from Pete here is that I know that this is a little off topic, but is it okay to have different cover art between the audio and the video, I think is what this question is. And I can actually show you an example of what one looks like, the artwork for this show. And how I handle that is I basically create pretty much the same cover art. And then I just add, this is the video edition. And then I have one that's the audio edition. And so because you have to create it, if you're creating a real audio and video podcast, it's good to kind of like let them know what it is. And also it says in the actual description up at the top up here, it has little parentheses that says video, and then the other feed for this show is just audio. So that's one way you can handle that difference in the actual media and how it's distributed. Now, I think if he's talking about if it's different artwork for the YouTube experience or the live show, I tend to think that it probably needs to be consistent.
Yes.
To some degree, you can have some variability because the form factor is a little different. But anyway, what's your thought on that, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I approach everything before I pick up, the first digital pen or whatever by like sitting down and creating a style guide and a master sheet. And I look at, these are the color palettes, these are the 5 colors I'm going to work with. These are the fonts I want to work with. And, these are generally the assets I'm going to work with this kind of splash that maybe you have or, something of that nature. And as long as those things are consistent, you can play around with having different covers for your YouTube and your audio and your video and all of that kind of stuff. But you don't want them to be drastically different where like this one's a close-up of my face and this one's my cat and this one's just my name in text. Nobody, you want that brand recognition. So everything should be cohesive.
Yeah. And also I like the Mutt's crazy crafting comment. I do 50-50 both long form and short form content on my channel. And really to get back to the topic of this show is really this tension between the content creators feel about, what should I do? Should I create long form or short form? And, how long should it be? And, there's various uses for this. And there's advantages and disadvantages to having short form versus long form content. And I think a lot of the platforms are really challenging content creators to figure it out. And that's what I was hoping to do with this program, is to kind of draw these distinctions based on both of our experience with long form. I'm a big long form content creator. I've never really been much of a short form content creator. So I see all the advantages of the long form stuff, but I'm still kind of learning the short form methodology and being open to it and seeing where the opportunity is. But I think that there's definitely some downsides that people need to understand about doing short form content.
Oh yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Yeah. So with short form, like a lot of what people see is it sort of spikes real quick, right? Like it is immediately discoverable, and within 48 hours, it's gone. And you, depending on, how well played in that, swiping you're placed, you're going to hit 200 to maybe 2,000 views, and then it goes away. But if you really, put a lot of attention to the short form stuff, you can actually see it do fairly well. And I think the thing with short form is that so many people, especially in our world, in the podcast world, the live stream world, approach it with this sort of like, well, I'm going to live stream, I'm going to clip out these big sections, and then I'm going to just trim those into these short form, sound bites.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. Like, I think what's really happening is you're wasting energy, and you're just sort of playing into that I only expect this to get 200 to 2,000 views mentality. And short form is just like long form, especially if we're just talking about YouTube. Like, there's a formula, there's a way to make it work better, and you actually have to put some editing into it so that it starts with a solid hook, and it, kind of follows that hero's journey or that setup of a joke where it's like hook, setup, punchline, you're out, right? Like, or like if you go with like sort of that classic hero's journey thing, you're in the real world, you're exploring a conflict or a problem that your viewer has, and then give them a little twist, something that surprises them, and it's done. Just be done with it. Like, I know there's now long short form, because you can do like on other platforms up to 10-minute videos. And I know YouTube is thinking about stuff like that. I think they're still at 1 minute. I don't know what to do with that yet.
Well, no, wait. Did I hear you say there's a format called long short form?
Yeah. So like on TikTok,
so is that like
10-minute? Yeah.
30 seconds versus 2 minutes? Is that what we're talking about here?
TikTok will let you do 10 minutes.
10 minutes, right.
And
right.
like, but it's a vertical VOD, right? So it's like, I think at that point, it does come back to something along these lines where people are looking for something very informational and educational and authentic. And it's something where you have to keep them there for a long time. But to get people to even watch your video, it just has to be that initial like hook that grabs them and stops them for swiping. Because the main difference between long form and short form is discoverability. And with long form, people are searching for your content. They're like, how do I make YouTube Shorts work? So they'll type that into YouTube and try and find an answer to that, and they'll find this, hopefully. With short form, they're not searching, they're just endlessly swiping. And so whatever you title it doesn't matter. Like, nobody's going to see that until after they've already heard whatever your first 2 seconds of speech are, and they're like, oh, what is this? So whatever that very first thing you say is has to be just so compelling. And when you take a live stream like this and try and convert it just by trimming into a 30-second thing, you're not grabbing a hook, right? So like, to really do this right, you have to spend another 10 minutes on it, right?
Right. Totally. Well, let's clearly define what the industry constitutes short form versus long form. And short form is typically content that's under 10 minutes, usually. And then long form is usually over 10 minutes. I would tend to agree with that analogy, even for podcasting, at least audio and video podcasting. I mean, it's kind of similar. So you can kind of think about this in a proper way. I'm not sure that vertical videos and short form videos plays well on the video podcasting side from the standpoint of an RSS feed distribution, but that typically, and that's another interesting twist to this, is that it depends on how this content is consumed. So as you think about short form, it's really a game of trying to get in people's frequency in short viewing, and it's this repetitive thing that people get into. It's kind of considered by some to be kind of a time waster, right? To some degree, right? People are just sitting watching their phones, but it's also, one thing too, and I know we haven't touched on this yet, and I know there's a few questions that I've queued up here prior, but this whole concept of evergreen content, right?
Yes.
I don't think that short form content really fits into the evergreen content. And I think both of us, and I wanted to raise this topic too, because I looked at both of our YouTube channels, and both of us have a very similar pattern on consumption. I started on YouTube about 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And it looks like you did about the same. So, and you had a couple of videos that blew up and got really big way back then.
Oh yeah.
And it's been difficult since then to kind of keep that same level of momentum going. But it also tells me that stuff, and I see it on my own channel. I created a bunch of videos that have gotten 200,000+ views over 15 years. It's a long time.
Right.
But there is a potential benefit of creating long form content on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And gaining views, gaining momentum over that period of time, over long periods of time, which I'm not sure happens with the short form stuff.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree to that. I actually made some very specific vertical short form, hopefully evergreen content about 2 years ago. That was all Halloween themed. And I was like, we're going to do this. I made about 10 different videos. And they were all linked on the same topic, which I can't say because my device will start talking back to me if I say its name, but that product. And it were all just sort of tips and tricks on, some funny Halloween things. And I did it. I put them all out like day to day, and I linked them in like a playlist. And the next year I waited to see, around Halloween, if they brought back any old, views, and they didn't. Right. They got like maybe a smattering, and it really just fell. But that one video that I made 17 years ago, which is FYI really low res right now, and even lower res because there was a whole event on YouTube where they lost the high res copies for things that were done before 2010. Okay. So it's like 480, that video, which has over 1 million views, is still my most viewed video. Like, it still consistently gets the most views because it is evergreen. And that is a huge difference in the long form and short form strategies on YouTube. With the short form stuff, I know it was Mutts and Nuts says they do like a 50-50. And if you have the time to do that, great. But if you don't, I would pull back from that and invest more time on that evergreen content, unless you figured out shorts. If you figured them out and you're getting like tens of thousands of views, then by all means go on and do what you're doing and don't listen to me. But yeah, if I were to do that from scratch, I would probably bring it down to like 30 to 70 and put most of my time into long form that was evergreen stuff, and with occasionally hitting some trend stuff.
Yeah, I see your co-host here of your of your show has posted a comment here. It says, I'm talking about John Lacey here. Yeah. Does short form help you build a deeper relationship with your audience, or is it just a awareness building activity? I believe it's just an awareness building activity.
Yeah, I agree. I have seen with my own short form stuff, almost 90% of the views that it gets are not my own subscribers, are not people who know who I am. And yeah, so I do get a lot of subs converted from that. But I also think getting people to go from short form into the long form, into the live stream doesn't work. Like, it is its own,
its own medium.
It's its own medium, just happens to be right next door to all of this other stuff you're doing on YouTube. Where I think live and the long form stuff, I think those audiences cross.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that there is a little bit of bleed over between the short form stuff as you build your maybe your brand or whatever, your face or your, but there's not a lot of kind of like branding going on with those shorts either, right? So unless you are overt about it in your video, right, or it's in your background, kind of like behind me here, if you have like a logo for a show or something like that that's behind you, and I often do that in the shorts that I do, that can be a little bit of a cross promotion for you, because there's not a lot of opportunity in those shorts to really do that like it is on the long form content.
Yeah, and also with like the short form stuff, most people are not going to click into the description unless you call it out in the video. Right. You're lucky to get more than 2% people looking at the description. What YouTube does have, which is pretty cool, is the redirect, which is you can have that short form video link into another video. So write down, in the lower left-hand corner, it'll say like redirect, and it'll have the title of the next video, and they can click on that. Typically, it seems to work better if you go shorts to shorts as opposed to shorts to long, because they're not in it for that. They're not looking to make that jump just yet. So I think the best way to use that when you're approaching someone who's new to your channel through a short form vertical is just give them what they want. Just give them lots and lots of shorts, get in front of their face as much as possible until they're like, who is that guy that's always talking about StreamYard? I'm going to go look that guy up. And now they become a long form, viewer.
Right.
And I think the cross section of people who watch the long form and the short form started as long form viewers. And they just happen to, open shorts up every once in a while. And they're like, oh, well, the algorithm's clearly going to give me this because I already watched Sam.
Well, clearly YouTube has started to put a higher priority on your wall, right, for short form content now. Because I think what they're saying is a lot of kind of viewing loyalty there. It's like people get into the repetition of it and what's next, what's coming up next, what interesting thing is coming up next. And it's almost like it's a little bit of a lean back experience where on the other side, it's a little bit more intentional, which is interesting dynamic as well on that side. But I think about my own consumption patterns of YouTube, and I can totally see this where it's like I get pulled into shorts for a little bit while, and then I get tired of that, and then I pop over to the long form stuff, and so I bounce back and forth between those two because I see things that are interesting or catch my attention or whatever. And so it makes sense that YouTube is doing that, where they're kind of teasing everybody the full breadth of content over there. But I think from a content creator perspective, I think there's more value in the long form.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's even a question. Long form is just across the board going to give you long-term views, more long-term views. The monetization, the ad revenue is going to be higher. And if you're not already a YouTube partner program member, your ability to get into that program is going to be easier through long form and live.
Yeah, I agree with that. And classical lover, that's what this is. When those words run together, so the question is, so what microphones do you recommend for live streaming? And I would say that the same kind of microphones that you use for podcasting or whatever are okay. But some people like to have a lavalier. Some people like to, there's new microphones coming out all the time. I know Shure just came out with a new microphone. It's basically a little clip-on that transmits directly to an iPhone. And that can be a good solution too. So it's just a matter of how you're producing this and what your setup is. But good quality audio it depends on if you're going to create a podcast out of it too, an audio version.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit more forgiveness. So I don't know what you think about this, Sam, but on the audio side, if you're primarily just video, I'm not sure it's quite as the listener is quite as expecting, high level. Right.
Yeah, like if all they can do is hear the audio, then I'm sure they're a little more demanding. I would say that if you are looking to invest money into equipment, I would always put my money into audio first, though. Like I wouldn't worry about my camera.
It's a good foundation, right?
Yeah.
It's a good foundation. So what microphone are you using there? Is that an ATR or no? It's a Q2U.
Yes, it is. That is right. It's the Samsung Q2U.
Yeah, I have one behind me here, right on the shelf there. You can see it right there. It's right where my thumb is.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So when I go on the road and I get pulled into like maybe being a guest of another podcast or something like that, I'll have my own mic and they just plug me in and I'm good to go. But yeah, I mean it's a good reliable mic. You do have to really get up on it.
I'm about a hand away.
Right. It does come with a foam pad to it, kind of like this SM7B has.
Yeah.
They're both dynamic microphones. Yeah. Certainly that microphone's a lot less expensive than this one.
Yes. Yeah.
So
this is a good step up. Yeah.
Well, it is. There's no reason why you can't do all the podcasting you ever want to do with that.
Oh yeah.
Sounds
the mic I had before this was a condenser mic, and you could just hear my computer like whirring and like spinning up all the time. And my co-host was like, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
And the nice thing about the Q2U is it's both USB and XLR, and I love XLR. So, but yeah, if you're going to travel, then that's great because you can just do the USB.
Yeah. And Tom, as a question here, what's the best way to clip the content of a podcast for social media? I guess it depends on if you're creating video or you're just doing audio.
Yeah, I think this was in response to me saying that, you're trimming your live streams wrong to make, shorts. Was that what this was?
Yeah, I'm not sure this works that well for audio only stuff. So, this kind of shorts versus long. I mean, though podcasting has kind of had this tug of war with short form, but I think in podcasting, short form is really kind of 15 minutes. Is kind of the break point on short form podcast content, audio only content.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say if you are taking, your live video podcast and turning that into like shorts, yes, record a hook. If you're not going into the show knowing these are the things I want to talk about and pre-scripting a hook that you just happen to drop in the middle of the show and you're like, okay, I can grab that and use it, 100% record the hook right after the show, or remember what you were wearing and put that back on tomorrow, and the magic of editing.
Right. That's true. Hey, I wanted to play a little video of Gary Vaynerchuk talking about this tension between short and long form content. So he actually was up on stage and he made it's only like 40 some seconds, whatever. So it's also an example of short form content that has some value, right? So let's pull this up and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk for a few seconds here and see what he has to say about short form versus long form. So let me add him to the stage. And here he is. So let's go ahead and click the play button.
Everything will always have a place if you're good at it.
Oops. Bandwidth. Wow.
Very good. For a second, I thought it was me. I was like, oh no, the lightning happened.
What happened here?
Short form video will forever be a way humans want to.
Wow. Okay. Maybe I'm trying to do too much here.
All right.
This isn't working.
Consume. So a long form video. I love when everyone was like 5
Oops. Let me try
years ago. Oh, now that everything is like TikTok and 30 seconds, nope.
That's too bad that it's not.
Nobody's gonna watch movies anymore. It's too long, and I would just laugh.
Yeah,
I think we got the point out of that.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, we got the point that the bandwidth wasn't very good.
But I haven't seen this clip before, but I think his main point is everyone thought, we're going to lose all of our attention spans and short form is going to be the end all be all. And you're going to go to a movie theater and it's going to be 30 seconds of just like guy getting hit in the balls. Was the classic thing. But no, like we're seeing 3-hour movies still hitting the box office, right? I think
it's the whole spectrum. People love everything.
Yeah, I think the phenomena that we are starting to see now is the consumption burnout from short form.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are stepping away from it, or minimizing their consumption daily and looking for those sort of long form, more authentic creators that are out there. And I think it's just kind of going to be this cyclical thing, kind of like fashion trends are, where it's like, yeah, bell bottoms were in 50 years ago, but they're back again and again. And so it's going to be like every 3 years, because internets are way faster than real trends. So it's going to be every 3 years, like some new vertical short form trend is going to happen that takes everyone back into it. And then, 6 months down the line, everyone's going to stop wanting to see that again and go back to long form. And these dates are way exaggerated. It's probably like every 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. Well, then there's a spectrum on the short form side too of what type of content there is over there too. I know I tend to gravitate towards, content that's entertaining or has some quirky element to it. But then again, I appreciate it when a creator posts a vertical video that has 2 guests and they talk about a really important value-packed point to their conversation, right? There was an exchange that went back and forth that was either funny or entertaining or just really was a profound statement, right?
Yeah.
And those are interesting too. And then there's the other ones that, have guys that are like watching, a boom crash and they kind of glance over like this, and then they see a car crash and they glance over like this and they make a face, and it's like, okay, that's
Right.
I guess that's interesting content. I guess if you like to be an ambulance chaser type of type of person, right? But it's not really adding a lot of value to my life. So that's where the long form content really comes in. And if you can create that hook with that short that connects with the value of that podcast, and if you can show your logo, you can say, well, this is that show. And I know StreamYard has done that with my guest appearance that I had on their new podcast that they started, the Creator Studio Show.
Nice.
And it picked up, thousands of views on the short side. I don't know how much converted over to the long form consumption, but it's interesting. And, and John Lacey has a good observation. And that's really what this show is about, is talking about the convergence of all these mediums coming together. And it's such a hodgepodge mess of trying to determine what works and what doesn't and what's good for each content creator and how to go about it.
And I mean, it's going to be forever changing all the time, constantly. Wait till holograms drop and everyone's going to be like, oh, now I got to make hologram content.
Yeah. I was playing around with, I've got a 360-degree video camera behind me on the shelf over here, and I was starting to play around with that too. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can see a couple of the 360-degree videos that I made, and it's very interesting too. And you start thinking about the Apple Vision Pro that's coming out. It's going to be increasingly possible to experience 360-degree video in those type of experiences. And that's those type of devices, I should say. But those are really interesting in pushing the envelope on, because they can actually record videos. I mean, I've got some friends that are doing it to create videos right now. Well, they'll just wear the goggles into wherever and whoever they want to interview, and they just record it with the glasses, and and it creates a virtual version of themselves. And so when they go back and forth in post-production, they can actually make it look like a regular conversational podcast. Like I was switching between you and I, if I switch here, and then I switch back to myself, you can do that on those Vision Pro glasses right now. And it's really kind of an interesting opportunity as you look forward.
Yeah. The technology is just crazy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So let's see if we have any. John's doing a great job of giving us lots of things to talk about here. It says that especially on YouTube, there is a bit of trade-off between view count and watch time. I would say watch time is probably prioritized by YouTube right now, would be my guess.
Sure, it definitely is. And I mean, I think really what this plays into is the difference between vertical shorts and horizontal long form. I would also add audience retention to this. So the interesting phenomena about short form is that, yeah, you're going to hit more views early on, right? Whereas your VOD, long form VODs will just sit there for days and days. Like, here's one view, here's another view. And then eventually maybe it takes off a little bit. Whereas those short form videos, it's like, just a couple hours in, it's just going to start rolling in with those views. And, depending on the content, you might actually have some pretty cool, like, audience retention where it's like over 100% retention because it's so short that they just watched it on loop 3 times before they went, wait, this is looping, and they swipe away. So the stats on that are just like, sometimes it's almost like, what do I even do with that information? But, and then you look at your long form stuff and it just drops right away. And, a lot of that is something we talk about on our show with, John and me all the time, which is, if something is worth saying once, it's worth saying a dozen times. So now take this information and do it better next time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that also applies to podcasting too. So there's a lot of crossover here. And I wanted to mention too, really quick before we get too deep into the show, because I kind of skipped over it because I wanted to get into talking about the topic of the show today, but I wanted to mention that I am going to have a StreamYard giveaway at the end of the program. So I'm going to be giving away a StreamYard duck and a StreamYard mug. So get into the comments and put hashtag the yard, and that'll get you added to the giveaway at the end of the show here. So, and then all you have to do is send me an email to my email address, which I will bring up on the screen. And if you happen to win, and I just need your address, and we'll mail you out your merch. So, so hang around there and get in the comments and type, just like what's on the screen here, hashtag the yard, and that'll get you entered into the giveaway, which I will pull up at the end of the show. So I wanted to mention that. And so let's get back to our topics here. So we have another comment that came as, but why people are no view my post? I'm not sure what that means. Gabriel could be talking about when he posts a video that he doesn't see any views on his post. That is an unfortunate outcome. Unfortunately. Yeah, it happens.
So I would need to know, because since they're chiming in from Facebook, that we're talking about YouTube here, and are we talking long form, short form, live, whatever, community post, which, by the way, if you're out there and you have a YouTube channel and you're not using your community posts, do that. It's great. I love them. But first and foremost, when you make a long form, I'm just going to pretend this is long form YouTube video. When you make a long form video, the first thing somebody's going to see is that thumbnail. So just put as much effort into that as possible. And I don't mean as many assets in it. You want it to actually be relatively minimalist, have just the bare minimum, assets on it to get your viewers' attention. And then like a really good sort of title. So I always look at it like the thumbnail should, create an emotion or a question in your viewer that the title then gives a little bit of clarity on. So when they click into it, that hook then solidifies that you're going to deliver on this value prop and explain what's going on, So hopefully that helps you.
And I wanted to also bring up Sam's YouTube channel too, so you can see what's going on there, and I can actually show mine too. And I think there's a lot of correlation going on between what's happening on your channel and what's happening on mine.
We literally did a show about StreamYard just the other week.
Yeah, you did.
There it is.
And so if I scroll down to the showcase, which is right here, that's this. If I think you can pull up all that there.
Yeah.
Right. And it shows, it's kind of hard to see here, but this top post up there is a DIY how to make a zine, paper, scissors, and pen. Rockin' is the title. And it shows it was made 16 years ago, or posted 16 years ago. It has 1.6 million views. And I got the same thing going on too on my page. But if you go look at more if you look at a lot of these, then there's a second one in here that got 500,000 views.
Yep.
So those are awesome, but those are a long time ago.
Very, very old. Yeah, that was my heyday. I haven't put nearly as much effort into my YouTube in the past, a decade. Basically, I've worked on other projects. I still keep it going. I haven't given up on it, but when I started YouTube, it was, this sort of blank canvas of like, do anything, right? And as YouTube has evolved, it has hammered over creators' heads like this niche down concept of like, be ultra specific about what you're talking about. And my channel was never that. So like coming into it, in 2023 and being like, what do we do with the 13,000 people that followed me when I made sketch comedy, weird news, family vlogs, and like the zine video, right? It's very different.
Right. And I had a similar type of situation too here. I've got a series that I started. I think the oldest one that I have in this series, it's this behind the wheel one here, that's at the top of the screen here, and it's about EVs. It's about electric vehicle cars, because I was into EVs prior to them being popular. So I had a Nissan Leaf back in 2011, and if you go back to my oldest video, you can kind of see it was really a rough video, but it got lots of views though. It's just really kind of odd. My most popular one on my channel is actually, is it showing up here? Yeah, it's here. It's just, which one is it? So there's kind of two spectrums. There's one, ones that you need to look at, especially if they're older posts, is what's the more recent views on those, right? And I went in and I made lots of changes to the metadata. And I also updated the thumbnails. Yeah. Like this one here, this Tesla Model 3 video that I made, I went in and changed a bunch of the metadata, changed the thumbnail, and I saw a jump in the views. And this is a very short form content I made 12 years ago on the Model S that came out, that actually had a Model S. And it doesn't look like I can stream and do this at the same time. But that's what was really, really, really interesting. And then I started creating some new content, doing live shows again, and doing this podcast show. And I made a playlist on my own site too. And then StreamYard has this program as well. And it's definitely kind of revitalized my channel to some degree, but the numbers aren't really out of this world either. So it's not like they were coming out of content that I created 16 years ago. And I would say the content that I'm making now is a lot better than it was back then, but it's still, I guess it's still not good enough yet to get, millions or 500,000 views or like you were able to.
Right.
So,
well, and I'll use John's thing. That zine video that you pointed out is exactly what John's talking about, where I was featured on the YouTube homepage when it actually was not an algorithm. There were human curators.
And curated, right.
So it was, up there and got 500,000 from just being on the front page. And then the rest of it has just been, time doing its thing. That video has been shown and, to something like 40 different school classes to my knowledge, which means it's probably been out there to a whole lot more. And that's the video that it's 16 years old. So it's 480. It's really pixelated. And I even, tried to do a more recent version of it. It didn't do nearly as well. Because there's just something about, the pacing of it and and just the quirkiness of it and stuff that just made it so much better than when I went in and was like, I'm going to do a professional. This is how that works. No, stick to weird.
Right. Yeah, I had the same inclination. I was going to bring that behind the wheel series back again. And I started to get friction because people were all worried about my safety of doing doing a video from behind the wheel of a car. So,
Oh yeah. No, I did a bunch of those too, where I
yeah.
like vlogs from the car, and people were like, "That's not good." I'm like, "It's
Yeah,
okay.
right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah, it's
I'm
all
a
right. I mean,
trained
I
professional."
have one hand here and one hand with the camera, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
all right. But so it looks like Chris writes, "Good morning, everyone, and God bless everyone. Everyone hug, love." So
Nice.
that's awesome. Thank you, Chris, for that.
Very good.
And it's always great to get those positive, affirm posts. So I always enjoy those. So thank you very much for that, and I appreciate all the great comments and posts. And it looks like John's back again.
Yep.
It says, because people have content consumption preferences, shorts, longs, live might have different audiences. Okay. Yeah, I think we maybe talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah, I said that something along those lines, where it is, yeah, in addition to being sort of a cyclical thing, it is also a deeply personal thing. And within that person will have different, consumption cycles, I think.
John writes,
Don't
don't
vlog and
vlog
drive."
and drive, folks.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the one.
But it got so many views.
Right?
Why wouldn't I? Right. Yeah. Yeah. So actually I got a camera mount that mounted to my
Nice.
windshield. So then I could just tell them, if they scolded me, I said, well, I wasn't holding the camera at that time.
Right.
So anyway, let's go ahead and kind of jump into a couple other things too. So as you look at the marketing of these things, short form content, it marketing in the creation side can be quite a bit less expensive than the long form content.
Sure.
There's definitely production advantages to creating short form content that it's hard to really say that that long form content really should be even compared to it. Shorts can be used as kind of like a teaser, I suppose. I mean, but like we said, that transfer between the two just isn't guaranteed. I would like to think that it would be, but it's not.
Yeah, maybe one day YouTube will figure out how to make that happen more. But yeah, for right now, it is, it's just easier to think of those as two different audiences, and you make the shorts for the short consumers and the long for the long consumers, and they have different wants and needs, and go into it with that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So go ahead and jump in here if you have a comment, or just share your experiences with the long form and short form content, because I want to hear from what you guys are seeing out there and what your preferences are, and also I remember that we're going to do a StreamYard giveaway. So post in here, which I've seen folks come in here and post hashtag the yard, and we will do that. We're getting close to an hour here, so I just appreciate everybody being here, and I'm just trying to think what else we might want to share, Sam, and to spark conversation here. But I wanted to also mention that this show is also available in Spotify as well. So if you're a Spotify user, you can find this program too. So if you can't catch it live, you can certainly catch it on Spotify. So, which is kind of a cool capability. I mean, if you think about how many people are consuming podcasts these days, and how many people are consuming on the video side, trying to leverage all of these areas can be a very powerful thing. I don't know, what's your thought on this as well, Sam, of the whole kind of getting your show out as an audio podcast?
Yeah, I actually was thinking, something I meant to say earlier when we were talking about doing live for audio,
Yeah.
is as a live stream, we have the video right in front of our face. So we, forget this is going to become audio later. Somebody's going to be driving and not being able to see things. So, it's really good to get into the habit of talking out the steps. Like if you're showing something on screen, it's like the live version of alt text where you're like explaining what is actually happening and not just like, so you're going to click this and then that. You just want to be as specific as possible so that that person listening only to the audio actually can get a visual in their head of what's happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very, very powerful. And it looks like John has another question. Did we cover this one? I can't remember. I said certain things will capture the imagination of viewers and the blessings of the algorithm. Sometimes it's hard to know why. I think that is a good observation too, is that it's a crapshoot.
It can be, yeah. It certainly can be. There's definitely times where I've put stuff out and expected it to do very well, and it did not. And then other times where I went, I'm just going to do this one thing, and it did weirdly well. And I went, well, nothing makes sense anymore. Black is white. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
I think there is still a point where you can analyze these things and know that you're going to perform better than typical stuff that you put out. But there are just those offshoots where you just do something randomly and it hits because it is in the zeitgeist, or it just does something unexpected. And sometimes the algorithm be weird.
Right. Yeah. So I've got some folks that are posting in here, that they do long lives and they make shorter versions of it, and you can do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's great.
There's a lot of things and frankly, if you go long with your live show, so let's just use an example. Let's say you go for 2 hours with your live show. And I've known shows that have done that, and they garner lots of comments and questions and a flow of conversation that maybe isn't really transferable over to an on-demand podcast experience. Well, they'll just excerpt out certain parts of the show and put that out as an audio version. So you can do some editing, but if you can produce it as a cohesive piece of content, just make sure that you're describing things as much as you can on the screen, so your audio listeners don't feel like they're getting left out of something, which in some ways, and this is going out as an audio version only too. So I will tell my audio listeners that it's going to be probably a better experience for you to go over and listen to the video podcast, because you're going to be able to get all the context of the facial expressions, the gestures, the pull-up experiences that I have of the screenshots and the videos, the attempted video plays that I have of YouTube in the show, which most of the time works pretty good. So it's just, you are going to get more content by watching the video. And then also the long form video versus even the shorts, right? The shorts are going to be like quick hits. And I don't even know that if you're a long form content creator that you actually even have to do shorts. I don't know. I mean, is there a rationale, Sam, that you can think of that, a long form content creator doesn't even need shorts?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's how much time and money do you have available and what can you do in that capacity. And it's like, if you're, raising a family and working a 9-to-5 job, then that time and is probably pretty limited. So maybe shorts isn't the way to go. And focus on what you can, do right now. When I approach a project, I look at what is the end result I want. And it's not, I just want to go viral and have like 20 million views. Like that may have been where I was in 2010, but I've grown and evolved. And now it's like, we need a very definitive sort of end result. So my wife and I, we foster cats. We have a 24/7 cat cam, and we do chats on that live stream 3 times a week. And I'm going to answer 2 things at once this way. We're ultimately, there it is, that's cute, Avalanche over on Twitch, but you can also find it on our YouTube. But ultimately, we are trying to get cats adopted. They're in the background somewhere. The beauty of this is that I can actually change cameras remotely. So let me see if I can find them really quick. But yeah, so we're looking to get these cats adopted, and we're looking to raise money to, save more cats and things like that. So that's the end result, right? So everything we do kind of pushes toward that agenda, as opposed to we just want to show people a million cats. There are channels that do that. They curate all of the, cutest clips out there that they've stolen from every other cat channel, and they put them together, and that's what they do. When I approach a video project or a podcast project, I know I want my audience to do X, Y, and Z. So, that's, maybe not something that shorts are going to help you with. The other thing I wanted to say is, as I mentioned, we do chats where my wife and I actually come on and we answer questions, and it's not exactly a podcast, because we don't turn this into, a product after the fact. We just let it live as a live stream archive. So doing something where you cut that into smaller chunks is really beneficial for us, because the live stream itself is, we're talking about cats. We have no real direction. It's just going to be us answering questions, right? This show is, we're talking about shorts and long form, which is a pretty good topic, but it could get even more specific. So if you cut it down and not into a shorts, but just a shorter clip, you can answer a specific question, title that for SEO, put a description in there for SEO, grab a thumbnail that is specific to that. Literally before this show, I was taking last night's chat. We had a viewer question that had come in about, is it safe to give my nursing mama cat medicine? And that's the clip. And right there, I had my title, I filled out the description, and it's not just, here's a cat chat Q&A. Right.
Yeah, that's a perfect use for shorts, I think, is to take a question that you think a lot of people have an interest in hearing the answer, pose the question, and then give the answer, right? And that's your video. I think that gets back to what I was thinking about high value clips.
Yes.
Is ones that, are entertaining or funny or have some value equation that's associated with them to make it worth watching. 'Cause there's a lot of these shorts and TikTok videos that don't have a lot of value in watching, and some of them are actually kind of tragic to watch, and you feel like you're like watching something you shouldn't be watching, right?
Well, yeah, they're videos that are specifically created to stop you from scrolling, but actually don't benefit you in any way, shape, or form. It's just like, well, look at these two people fighting, or I dropped this thing from 100 floors, like straight down the side of a building, which David Letterman used to do fantastically in long form. So all of these, things are just new again. But speaking of TikTok, I don't know where Congress is on that. They're actually talking about this right now.
Taking
and
it down.
it might go away, which if it does, maybe put some more effort into shorts on YouTube, because those people have to go somewhere. So stay on top of that. It is potentially, a beneficial thing that's going to fall into the YouTube community.
Yeah, and then probably into Facebook or Instagram or those platforms too. Might be good places to do that as well. But it looks like Pete George has a question. Where can you find your target audience? Which format your target audience prefers? So I think it depends on, I would really look at it more from your content perspective. I think it's going to be difficult to know who your target audience is, and be able to clearly define that, because the algorithms with the short form content, platforms are very algorithm driven. So it's very difficult to target them.
I think you can to a point, but there's no,
just by your metadata probably.
Right. Yeah. There's no search happening there. The discoverability is all through swipe and like what the algorithm associates with other things. But once you've gotten in front of someone, then the chances of you getting in front of them again are infinitely increased. The best thing to do is, put out the same content in both formats, right? Like create the long form and then chop it up into 2 or 3 shorts, and do that every week for 3 months. analyze all of that data and see who's watching what, and then look, take a moment to be like, do I continue with this, or do I continue with this, or do I continue with both?
Yeah, I agree. And I've got a comment up on the screen. Let's the name of the poster is "Let's Go So with Joanne Banco." So yeah. Also important to read the comments that are pulled up for these for those listening and wondering what you are referencing. So it just gets back to reading the comments like I just slaughtered. But
and that's what we talked about early on. So anyone who joined us later didn't hear that. And like, this is a thing that I say on on the show that John and I do on Fridays, which is like, you're going to say the same thing over and over and over again. You're going to repeat yourself ad nauseum, and sometimes within the same show. Like,
well, it's also it's kind of unfair because we start talking about a topic and we go for 4 or 5 minutes, and that person gets in and posts a comment trying to get it in the context of the conversation. We've already moved on.
Right.
So
it can be tricky. Yeah.
It's not always fair to the commenter, and that's why I kind of tend to go back up the line and look for things that maybe I looked over or went by too fast. So like Black and Blue posted a comment here: upload to an AI site that'll break up the long form into several shorts that are captured. That's the cutting edge right now, right? Is to get your video and then upload to these AI sites that can cut up the video and apply the transcript to an overlay text.
So this is the trap that I'm talking about earlier when I say that, people are doing shorts wrong, from long form to shorts wrong. This is the trap everyone falls into, is how can I can make easy shorts and a dozen of them in the same time I could actually do an edited short. But if you take the time to, like, again, find that clip and then find what the hook is that actually brings people into it better, it's going to perform 10 times better.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I think the human edited versions, and this has always been the tug of war of these shorts auto generators, is that do they always do a great job of knowing where the value nuggets are, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not always sure that they do a good job of finding them.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have the ability to edit them if you need to, like maybe add a couple seconds to it or remove a few seconds or something like that, because maybe the algorithm wasn't precise enough to get it where it sounded right. So I think there's a danger of that. No question about that. I mean, because I don't know about you, but all these AI tools that I use, I tend to have to use them and then, like I was just saying, get in there and kind of look it over and say, well, didn't do such a great job on that one, so I'm not going to use that one. Right.
Yeah. I feel like I spend just as much time messing around with the AI as if I just friggin' did the thing myself. Awesome. Thanks. Let's go.
Cat cam. We got to pull that back up again.
Yeah. It's 24/7.
Show us another view of that. Can you
Sure.
That looks like a Maine Coon cat that's curled up on the floor there.
She's actually just a long-haired tabby. She's pretty small. She does have 6 kittens. So we have 7 different cameras in this room. I'll bring up a couple right now, see what we can find. Oh, it's being slow.
I did many years of cat fostering myself. So I think that's a commonality between you and me, Sam, is that we've got that background.
Yeah. I think they're all hiding either in that cat tree or they've wedged themselves behind the bins. So I might not be able to find the kittens right away. Yeah. And there's a little delay on the switcher right now. But yeah, it's got 7 different cameras in there, and the audience themselves on Twitch can switch those cameras, which is super cool. One of the cameras is a PTZ as well, so they can just move around.
Oh, it can be moved around.
Yeah,
right?
You can remotely move it around and zoom in and stuff. And this year we are currently at 180 cats that we've fostered.
That's a lot.
And we are on track to cross over to 200 by the end of the year. So stop
So you
on
should make
by.
some short form content of cat watching here.
Yeah. Yeah, our YouTube actually has some cat TV videos, so it's videos of birds for cats to watch. So look for that as well.
There you go. Yeah. Especially you play those on an iPad or something like that, and you put it on the
Oh,
ground,
yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
cats will chase the birds on the screen.
Yeah.
They will never catch the birds. They will never harm a bird doing that, right?
Right. Yeah.
But so John Lacey posting here, so much of this comes back to your goals, right? I think really high level, that's what all this is about, right? Is that
Yes.
any show that you create, any kind of piece of content, well, what are you trying to accomplish with it? And sometimes, that whole concept of just making it serendipitous is okay too sometimes. If you just want to do something because you think it's fun, and you don't have to be all serious about it. I think creating spontaneous content has its value too, but
Yeah.
I think that that there's value in having a plan.
For sure.
What you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different potential goals out there, whether you're trying to educate or entertain or sell something, that, just having that constraint in front of you is going to make what you do easier.
Yeah, that's right. And was it BMV post a question, blessed morning all. May I ask if I can use a phone in StreamYard portrait mode to go live streaming? I would say yes, you can. So it just depends on your phone. iPhone is a little bit limited in its capability with the built-in browser, right? The Siri browser.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Safari,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I know StreamYard does have a guest app now that you can get for iOS. So if you have a guest that you want to bring into your podcast or your recording or your live stream, you can do that through that mobile app, and it's free in the iOS store. And from what I understand, there's an Android version coming, and they're going to add greater capability to that app. So eventually you'll be able to do everything right through your mobile phone. So that's going to be you've kind of always been able to do that, but there are some limitations into the features that are supported by the Safari browser, as opposed to what you can get through like a Windows or a Mac browser experience, right? So there's some limitations there, but I think everybody wants to fully enable mobile usage. And I'd see that happening a lot more as I mentioned earlier about these lavalier mics that are increasingly coming out from DJI and Rode and whatever, that's going to make it really easy to use your mobile phone to do everything. So you just get like a little tripod like this and just mount your iPhone or your phone on it and do it all right there, So it's really a matter of just, what your camera shot is and how stable it is. And I could probably do this whole show off my iPhone if I wanted to. So I should actually try that sometime. But,
as long as your connection is strong enough.
Right. Yeah, that's always the key. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got, it looks like we're getting towards the end of the show here. It's amazing how time flew by here.
Yep.
And a lot of comments came in it seems like the longer I talk sometimes, the more comments come in, the more I get behind. So it's like, oh my God, how do I catch up? Okay. So we have another comment here. Recording on 2 devices is a smart tip. Yes, you can actually do that. And actually you can bring in multiple cameras too, if you want to. I'm going to do that here soon with this production. I have a web camera that I'm going to plug in and bring that up as a separate camera shot. So you'll be able to see my setup here that I have. I have a whole kind of a tree of monitors and all sorts of things that I have going on. I have a teleprompter and all this stuff. So it's most people aren't going to want to do that, but that's okay.
I mean, that's what John and I both We actually, so we use StreamYard and we use the local recording. So it records each camera as its own camera. It records the entirety of the stream. But
Yep.
John and I also use OBS as a virtual camera. So we make a local backup as well, just in case.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, there's lots of options. I think you can really create as elaborate production as you want to. And then there's like all these switcher devices, the ATEMs and things like that you can get as well. And then I've got a Stream Deck, which I haven't fully enabled into my studio yet, but that's a way to kind of streamline transitions and do things as well. And I'll have to show that more after I get it fully configured. You have one? Yeah, I think so how much do you actually use of your Stream Deck?
I use it all the time. I'll use my Stream Deck not just for live streaming, but like for Photoshop, for video editing. I use it for Zoom. I do a weekly Dungeons and Dragons game, and I have a Stream Deck profile for that game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if I'm on this computer, it's available and I'm using it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I've got a few of them configured, but I don't actively use it for the show yet. But I need to get it set up where I can switch between it. But I wanted to get the podcast launch and all that stuff. Joanne really likes, kudos to both of you for caring for cats. Yeah, I've done it for many years, so it's always enjoyable. I love kittens. I don't know about you, but
that's our focus. We actually try to like specifically focus on kittens under 8 weeks old, because in Los Angeles they just like fill the shelters, and then people don't know this, but they are then the top of the list to be euthanized because the shelters don't have the staff or equipment to care for them.
Right. And it's wonderful if you can raise a kitten to be very social and socialized. It's such a powerful thing that you can do to help them be adopted and have a happy life, right?
Yeah.
Because cats that aren't socialized are real problems.
Yeah. Yes.
Those claws tend to cause a fair amount of damage.
Yeah.
So, right. And it looks
you can always tell who the cat fosters are, but based on the amount of like cuts they have on the
right, scars on their faces and on their arms. Right. Yeah. Right. I've been gnawed on a few times.
Yeah.
Looks like John posted about Wi-Fi and using mobile data while streaming on your phone. It can actually work. It can actually work pretty well. It depends on your connection speed, on how many other people are connecting to your network at the same time,
and how much you're moving around. Don't try and like tour the zoo. You're gonna drop. But if you're just hanging out in your living room, mobile's fine. Right.
Probably. So, well, let me see here. So multi-cameras. Mr. Nast run here the Basement Show. Multiple cameras is awesome. I use professional StreamYard that allows me to use the multiple camera feature, right? And it's pretty awesome. And it looks like there's others that are using the Stream Deck with the shortcuts, and those are fantastic. So I want to remind everybody, if you've been just watching this show for a short period of time, that I do have a giveaway that I'm going to be doing in a couple minutes here for a StreamYard mug and a Puddles duck. So I'm sure you can put that behind your bookshelf behind your videos, and it'd be an interesting thing. I have a TiVo. I don't know if you can see it up there. It's right. If I can get my finger going the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get my finger going the right way. There it is.
It is.
It's a little stuffed animal. It's always fun to have those things. But anyway, so let me jump to bringing up the giveaway here. And before I do this, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming in here and joining me and putting in your time and effort to listen to us talk about these topics, and hopefully it's helpful to you. And I definitely want to, thank you and appreciate your time and effort. And if you're a content creator, I have even more appreciation for you because I know how hard it is, and you're putting in hard work, and you're trying to succeed and trying to make it work for yourself. And I have a lot of respect for those that stick it out and because I've been a content creator I started back in 1999 is when I started. And I've been doing a variety of different things. And it's okay to pod fade is the term in podcasting. If you want to start a new project or you want to do something fresh, there's no harm in stopping what you've been doing for some period of time. But I do believe in the concept that you should stick with stuff for multiple years if you can, because you never know when that inflection moment happens. I don't know if you've had that experience, Sam, of doing something for a long period of time and then eventually it starts to bring fruit.
Oh, sure. I mean, we've been doing the cat cam for 7 years now, and it's really become its own thing, which is why I've kind of stepped back so much on my own personal stuff. I'm like, everything I do now, it goes into that project. You know, aside from the show that John and I do on Fridays, which is very low lift for me, and he does most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're continuing to watch this, go ahead and post into the comments of the platform you're watching this on #TheYard, and that'll get you added to the giveaway that's going to come up here in a couple minutes. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to get those posts into their viewing platform here. #TheYard, just like this. And that'll get you added. And I'd love to get my number of entries up a little closer to my live viewing count, which is getting close to 70 people. And it would be terrific to have the entries be about 70 people. So I would love to match that. So I did see that there was a comment. Looks like, let me pull that back up again. What happened? Here we go. Looks like Mr. Nast, the Basement Show posts, he just passed 19 months of doing his live show. Congratulations. That's a good dedicated period of time.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So keep it going. I hope you're finding some traction and success with that. Well, the entries into the giveaway for the mug and the Puddles Duck are going up. I appreciate that. Keep them coming. And I say there's a question from Valentine TV. Question: can you set your computer to open in StreamYard? You probably can. I'm not sure that you probably should. would be my comment. If it was its own standalone app, you could probably, that would make more sense, probably. But since it's primarily a browser-based platform, I don't know that you would necessarily need to do that. I don't know. I mean, I think creating a shortcut in your browser might be the best solution.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way. I mean, you could technically turn it into a desktop shortcut, and then if you're on a PC, have that auto launch. But I don't know that that's necessarily needed. I wouldn't find a real need to do that.
Yeah, I can see your desire to want to shortcut the process, and that's kind of what is good use for a Stream Deck too. Is that I can just push a button on this touchpad, right, and it will bring up StreamYard. Yeah. So, and it operates under the similar kind of ideology to, a browser shortcut or something like that. It's the same kind of thing.
Like John says in the chat, you could just make StreamYard your homepage tab in your browser. So
you could do that. Sure. Yeah. That's true. And that would probably work pretty good, I would think. And it looks like, let's see, keep the entries coming in because our viewer count is higher than our entry count. So keep them coming in. But eventually here, I'm going to have to pull or push the draw button, I guess might be the thing to do. So let me bring that up on the screen and we can get it going here. All right. So here's the giveaway screen. And let's activate some music and see if we can create a little excitement for the drawing here, and hopefully we can get a winner. All right, it looks like we've given everybody enough time to enter, so let's go ahead and good luck, everybody. Ooh.
There you go.
Butt Nuts Crazy
Yay.
something crazy. What's the full name? If I pull it across, it'll probably show.
Crazy Crafting. Crazy Crafting.
Crazy Crafting. Wow, it's a long name. All right. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for entering, everybody. And if you keep coming back every week, you get another chance to actually win here. So I don't know if I'm frozen. Am I frozen?
Oh yeah, you are. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, now you're back. You're good.
Hopefully I'm back here.
Yep.
And let me pull up on the screen my email address. Buttnuts. Here's my email address. So send me an email with your mailing address, and we will get you your merch sent out to you as soon as possible. So it's just rob.greenlee@gmail.com is my email address, and feel free to do that, and I will pass it off to the StreamYard team and get you on board. And if you're not a subscriber to StreamYard, here is a pathway that you can get a free trial as well as a discount on a pro plan. So you can certainly do that. You can also follow me over on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel as well. And then I'm also on Twitter as well. So if you want to follow me over there, and I post updates about what I'm doing with this show on all those channels. So definitely have a wonderful evening. I thank you so much for being with us, and I will pull that down. And thank you, Sam, for your time tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And coming in and contributing your, we potted it up tonight.
Yes.
Yes, we did quite well, I think, on straddling the line between podcasting and videos. Yeah. So, well, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm really bad at saying goodbye. It just drags on and on because I don't want to leave. You know, it's like, it's always fun to go live. So I appreciate it. Good night, everybody. And thank you so much.
Have a good one, everyone.